Well, I guess what comes with age? Loss of memory. So this is a guy who he would go through things like, oh yeah, he'd have pictures. I remember that. Oh, as you get old, man, you start to lose memories. Things become less clear. And if you really understand what that means, it's dark as all hell. Your life is drifting away because your life is made up of the things that you've done, right? And the things that you've seen, the things that you thought. This is one of the reasons I really, really encourage you guys to hang on to these journals. Yeah, I remember when I first started teaching, we had a high school exit exam. So you had to pass that exam in order to get your diploma. You took it for the first time in 10th grade. And one of the really main, components of the high school exit exam was themes, thematic elements. And a theme, in short, is just a main claim. Think of it that way. A theme is a main claim. And it was incredible to me that we would get through July, August, September, October, all the way into November, December, and I would ask that question, so what's a theme? And people would still have forgotten. And I remember one time in early August, I mentioned to the class that in December we were going to watch The Lion King. And they were like, oh, okay. And man, got to November, and they're like, so we're watching The Lion King, right, in a couple of weeks? Well, you remember, I just said it one time in passing in class. For some reason, they remembered that one thing. But literally, 3 class meetings a week, at least twice a week, we were talking about theme. It's amazing what we remember. It's amazing what we remember. Yeah, and what's going to be useful in the future?
You never know.
Exactly, you never know. Any of you guys at home ever run out of ranch? Yeah, I don't. I never run out of ranch. Because I have yeah, exactly. Because if you look at my refrigerator right now, I've got a bottle of ranch, and if you look at my shelf, guess what I have? A bottle of ranch. When those two switch places, I'll go get another one to make sure it's on the shelf. At home, I typically will have 2 or 3 backups of almost everything. Now, why? I have no idea. Am I ever gonna run out of it? I don't think so. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I have cases of ranch sitting in a corner somewhere, but I've got probably 2 or 3 bottles of ranch at home. How many bottles of hot sauce? I order them 6 at a time from Amazon to make sure you don't run out. When I get halfway through that, I order more. So at any given time, I may have 9 bottles of hot sauce in my cabinet. I have a lot of cabinets. I have big cabinets. But yeah, it's what's going to be useful in the future? I don't know. That's kind of school, though, isn't it? When are you ever going to need to know William Morris's statement? Probably never. But when will you need to be able to figure out what people are saying? Maybe never, but probably a lot. When are you ever going to need algebra? I have no idea. I've gone through 44 years of life. I've never used algebra, except in an algebra class. But that doesn't mean that it's not useful. In some ways, I'm sure some people have a use for it. But there's something in what Danny said about the people who hoard these things as memories. I mean, the guy that I was talking about earlier, again, he grew up during the Depression. And so he was old. He was very old. Now, what that means is, I guess what comes with age? Loss of memory. So this is a guy who he would go through things like, oh yeah, he'd have pictures. I remember that. Oh, as you get old, man, you start to lose memories. Things become less clear. And if you really understand what that means, it's dark as all hell. Your life is drifting away because your life is made up of the things that you've done, right? And the things that you've seen, the things that you thought. This is one of the reasons I really, really encourage you guys to hang on to these journals. Because maybe 10 years from now, maybe you'll be a parent, and then maybe in 15, 20 years, your kid will be in school, and maybe their grades aren't what you want them to be because you're going to remember that when you were in high school, you were an A student, right? No matter what your grades were, you're going to remember yourself as an A student, and you're going to talk about, oh yeah, I pay attention to my teacher, and I was on time, and I had all A's and B's, and I expect the same out of you. It's good to have that journal to go back and go, uh-oh, this is who I was back then. And not just to remind yourself whether you're a good or bad student, but also to remind yourself what you were thinking about. Last week, there was a quote for my 12th grade class. It's something to the effect of the greatest illusion in communication is the idea that it's taken place, something to that effect. In other words, we think we've communicated something, but we haven't for a number of reasons. I had a student who graduated 2 years ago. She wrote me a note and said, next year, if you go over this quote, I want to come in and talk about it. So I was like, all right, bet. So around December, I sent her a message with a picture of the quote. I said, we're going over this on January 11th or whatever it was. So she says, okay, I'm going to be there. A week before, she messages me and she says, I'm going to be there. So, okay. And then the day came, and guess what? He didn't show up. She didn't show up. And so I sent her a message and had the whole class looking at it. And I said, we're waiting for you. And she's like, oh, this came up, my car broke down. I went, okay, fine. But she said, but next year. So that was last week. What do you think? He didn't go. He didn't show up. You know. And I talked to her all the time, and she was just like, oh, well, take a picture of my journal and just read it to them. That's wisdom. Even like the praise hands. I have her journal actually. I still have it because I kept some of them. So I didn't read it, but I took pictures of it and sent it to her. And she messages me back and she says, OMG, I'm just ranting for 2 pages about boy problems. My point is that it gives you an insight into what was important to you back then. When you're a 12th grader, you guys are going to look at the 10th graders and be like, ugh, I hate 10th graders. Because you're going to be so much older than them in 2 years, a whole year and a half older. But it's good to have that reminder about what was important to you back then. And it won't, and even if you didn't do jack shit in the journal, at least you can look at it and go, this is the kind of student I was, this is the person I was. And hopefully you've seen some growth since now, between now and then. But the things that you keep, your memories, your pictures, they tell you something. They tell you what's important to you. It's just like if you record your conversations with people and you go back and listen to them, you would find out what's important to you. In other words, what was important to you that day at that moment. And that will tell you a lot about the person who you are. And you're going to see that over the next couple of years, those things are going to change, the things that are important to you. Hopefully. Hopefully you're not going to be the same person at 25 as you were at 15. And hopefully you're not going to be the same person at 45 as you were at 25. You'll be a similar person, but you'll be more refined. But now imagine if you keep these things for years and years and years, you could always go back to it. But if you don't, you've got nothing to look back on and compare yourself to. But also you lose that part of yourself, because when you're 25, you'll look back at who you are right now at 16, 17, and you're going to be remembering how you were, but through the lens of a 25-year-old. In other words, it won't be exactly as you were. And then at 35, you're going to be thinking back how you were when you were 17. And again, it's going to be different because you're filtering it through that lens. It's really good to be able to have something that you can look back on and say, and well, I guess see and say, I made up a new word there, say what was important to you by what you've written, by what you've taken pictures of. And then, of course, as you get older, the things that you've held on to. There are things I go through sometimes, and I toss a lot of stuff. But sometimes I'm going through things to declutter. I'll look at something I find and go, why was that important to me? Why did I put that in this box? And I couldn't tell you why it is. It might be like a newspaper clipping or something like that. I really couldn't tell you what it is. And one of them was funny. I was going through some stuff about a year ago or so, and I found this newspaper, and I was like, why would I have held on to this newspaper? And I went to toss it, because I was just like, you can't remember why it was important, it must not be important. But then I ended up pulling it out of the trash anyway, going, I wonder why. So I went through page. And on one of the pages, I found an interview with, I used to be in bands. I found an interview from if you know what enemy music is, I found an interview with my band. And I was talking, I was giving answers. I'm like, oh, I completely forgotten that thing even existed. But it was pretty dope to have it in the newspaper. And now here I am a year later, 2 years later, saying that, telling you the memory, because now I remember once you've been reminded. And so finding things like that, man, can remind you about the things that are important to you. The kinds of things that you choose to keep around your house. Make sure that at least they're useful in some way. Maybe remind you of something, or functional. Table is good, but also things that are beautiful. paintings, plants, something. Some of you guys are creative as all can be, man. I just had a 12th grade class that was doing a poster, which, long story short, is on psychology, and they're looking at the conscious and unconscious mind and the motivations of it. And a bunch of people, they're going to present them, and so they're making these posters. The posters, some cases, are just like stick figures or whatever. You see in the back corner over there what somebody else made. They made a damn mannequin head. And at the top of it are all of the thoughts and things that are going through their head, depending on their conscious and unconscious motivations. On the base of it is other information. It's just like, I showed that to my other classes, and they all just were like, we will never do anything that equals this. But that person who made it, it's phenomenal. And here's the thing. She's going to graduate this year. She'll be gone in a few years, and she'll completely forget that she ever even made that. And if she ever wanders through here, or God, imagine if she had a kid who came here at some point. Let's say that I was cursed enough to still be doing this, and I put it like on top of the cabinet up there for whatever reason. I leave it up there, and then she comes in with her daughter. She's like, "Huh, you know what? I was a good student." She can point to it. You know, especially those tests that you got, you know, that you did well on. Keep them. Oh, keep all of your old love letters. Keep all of your old love. Throw away your old bank statements, though. Those don't matter. But anything that breathes some level of positivity into your life right now, keep it. And even if it hurts later, just put it back in the box and revisit it in a few years, and when it doesn't hurt anymore. And hopefully it'll remind you about some things about how you used to be, who you were. And in some cases, man, that can show you how incredibly far you've come without even realizing it. So, questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Happy Wednesday.